There's a truth underneath it that connects us all. And if we can step into a more awakened state and ignite this thing I'm talking about within us, this deep passion, what happens with that passion is a love for life. It keeps us from judging so quickly. And the moment we stop judging, we are now available for abundance. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Art of Awakening podcast, where the art of living awake becomes a daily practice. I'm your host, Dr. Sue Morter, and I am thrilled to be here with you again. I absolutely love just being able to sit down and have our time together and chat, either one-on-one, just me getting to talk to you, or bringing guests to you that I feel are valuable in the world, and we can have conversations that are about what matters most. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about igniting your passion. I want to talk to you a little bit about you recognizing the passionate presence that you truly are on the planet. And if you're not experiencing that passion, there's a reason. And so as we begin to investigate this, there are some components that are just foundational. They're just frankly necessary for us to ever experience the passion that we are. You're made of a fiery passion, and if you're not in your body, if you're living in your head, you don't get to experience that passionate version of you. You experience the analytical version of you that's wondering why you don't have passion, is wondering why you don't really feel the ignited in getting up and out of bed during in the morning and feeling alive and lucid and ready to roll on whatever. You're not the one who's leading the optimism at the dinner table conversations, and you need to be. You need to be that person that is authentically feeling on fire in this world, lit up to be here, inspired to be creating and innovating new ways of living and being and breathing and sharing and loving each other. And if that's not happening, it's just because you're not connected with the truth of who you are. Truly, that's the only reason, because every one of us is built the same in that way. We are built of these components that, when put together, they're supposed to ignite something in you. And the reason that we're not ignited in these ways is because we're not using all the ingredients. We're leaving some of them set aside while we're so busy overusing certain components of who we are. We're used to setting goals with our mind and pushing toward those goals no matter what, and getting all fired up and not letting anything get in our way to make that thing happen. And we were taught and trained by personal development coaches and teachers and people over the last 50 years in such huge proportion to operate that way. And it is exhausting. It's exhausting, and it leaves behind an essential ingredient, which is actually your authenticity. When your authenticity is left behind, you start to feel fake and forcing things. You start to wonder, where is the fulfillment? Where's the satiation? Where's the beauty of life? Yes, it might cause success, and you might have found success early in your life, or you might be, striving and thriving at the same time in your life. Even now, you might be very successful, but my question is, are you passionate inside of that? Is it deep inside and rising up from within you without effort, an expression of you that comes forth just because you're here, just because you're awake today? And if it's not, then we have to take a look at why that would be. The disconnect happens. We land here, we splat, we disperse, we externalize our attention, trying to figure out who we are and how to fit in and who to please, and how to play the game in a way that works, until we try that for several decades and we become exhausted and we don't want to do that anymore. And then what? We don't know what to do. So the answer is to turn your attention inward. There's a process called pratyahara that is an Eastern Sanskrit term that means withdraw your senses inward. Just come in, come home, land deeper inside of yourself and breathe there. Literally breathe there. When your mind is focused in your body and you're breathing, something different happens. It ignites something different. A different chemistry gets established, and it starts to burst into a different disposition that changes and influences your consciousness. And as it does, you become inspired and curious. You become flexible and pliable instead of being rigid and locked in. And all the ways that you had determined the way life was supposed to be and how people were supposed to operate and how it's supposed to look, all of that starts to soften into curiosity and availability. Instead of judging all the people that aren't you or that aren't living the way you're living, you start to become curious and compassionate, not pitying them, but literally understanding why people are attracted to the things that they are attracted to. And even if you don't understand, you're interested in understanding, or you're interested in just loving, better yet. And so, oftentimes, no matter when I was growing up, I was in school. Actually, I was in a group that was with I was a cheerleader, and I was with the athletes and all of this, and they had a whole thing going right in school. And then I was also in theater, and with all of my buddies in the theater group, they had a whole thing going on, a whole way of living. And I was also in the student council, and they had a whole different thing going on. And each group had things to say about the others, of course. And for whatever reason, I found myself, traversing from one conversation to another in the matter of the same day or a couple of days. And I witnessed early on how people create their own little realities, and they have a little pecking order inside of those realities, and they establish all sorts of rules and regulations and what's right, what's wrong, and who's who, and what's what. And I am thrilled to say that in my life, as I grew up and developed a practice, a clinic, and was working with all different types of people, I began to recognize that it continues. It never stops. People never stop doing that until they wake up. And part of what happens when we awaken is something different ignites inside of us. And when this new thing ignites, what happens is we recognize it's all beautiful. It's all beautiful that these people are over here doing this and these people are over here doing their thing. And across the aisle, and all the ways that we have seen separation be so enhanced and so magnified in our worlds, in every sense of the word, the same thing is still true. There's a truth underneath it that connects us all. And if we can step into a more awakened state and ignite this thing I'm talking about within us, this deep passion, what happens with that passion is a love for life. I call it a greater love in my coursework that I'm teaching. And teach a lot about how it originates, and how we can cultivate it, and how we can enhance it and magnify and amplify it so that it influences our knee-jerk reactions in circumstances initially, meaning it keeps us from judging so quickly. And the moment we stop judging, we are now available for abundance. We are available for a bigger life than we were living before. The moment that we stop having an opinion about other, or having an opinion about self even, we step into a different world. We step into a world of creativity and curiosity. We step into a world that doesn't care about differences in things. It's a magnetic world that celebrates the sameness. It celebrates reunion. It celebrates the reuniting of who we are with our own divine presence. Truly, again, we remember, we recognize that we are that multidimensional quantum being here living this life, tick tock, to experience ourselves as creators. And as soon as we start being able to experience that energy, everything changes. Everything changes. We stop wasting our energy opinionating, and we start focusing our energy on enlivening this passionate presence within. It is golden. It is the healer within. It is the creator within. It is the manifester. It is all the things that we crave, all the things that we think are missing, all the things that we complain about that make us feel old and disconnected. All the while, all we have to do is ignite it. We just have to learn how. We have to bring the mind back onto the self, stay on the self instead of wandering into story, living in our heads and analyzing and projecting and predicting and filling in the blanks and writing stories and all of the stuff that we do. And all we have to do in an instant is shift and drop our attention down into the body and start breathing. And then if we breathe down into the earth with our exhale, and then we inhale up from the earth into the body, and then we exhale up through that central channel and out the top of the head, what starts to happen is we start to ignite a system of flow that we are designed to be living as. We get back in touch with it, with our mind. Our mind lands back on, oh my gosh, this is the vehicle I was supposed to be driving. I've been out here walking in the desert all alone, and all I had to do was climb in this vehicle, and it can absolutely, take me anywhere in any vibrational frequency that I would choose to be living in. One of joy, one of possibility, curiosity, one of play, innovation, one of connection and heartwarming conversation and care. These kinds of energies create an epigenetic environment that allow the little antennas on the surface of every cell in your body to get the message that all is well. Imagine that. And when those little antennas get the message that all is well, they start producing chemistries to support that. They have no choice. They are stimulus response. Get the message, give the response. Input, process, output. There's no thinking in the midst of it. And so we want to create this epigenetic environment that allows for the ignition of this passion on the inside. We want to do that every day. That's why you're here. That's what the Art of Awakening is all about. It's about realizing how simple it can be. And it's about taking complex, conscious ideas and dropping them into user-friendly ways of being and living. So if you pay attention inside of you, below your heart and above your navel and just below your navel, right inside your body in those areas, if you bring your mind's attention there multiple times every day and take a breath up and down through the central channel of your body. You can check us out on other podcasts, and you'll see me teaching about that, and learn to do that, because when you do, it starts to ignite this passion that I'm speaking about. And there are so many things that we can create from there on. But without that, without starting there, everything that you try to create generates a false version of itself. And yes, it's enjoyable, and yes, it's perhaps even giving you some temporary relief to certain circumstances or symptoms that you may have in your life or in your body. But at the end of the day, if you're not continuing to do those things, it won't continue to give you the reprieve, the relief that you found. I want you to have it in an ongoing and sustainable fashion. I want it to soften you and to allow you to find a great strength. That greatest strength of who you are lies underneath the softening of your own mind, dropping into your heart, dropping into your belly, and igniting this power of 1,000 suns that exists right where your ribs splay apart in your body, believe it or not. Literally, Eastern culture references the solar plexus as having the power of 1,000 suns, and I concur, because your mental body is anchored there. Your mind field is influenced by this area of your body, and if it's contracted and not ignited and not enlivened, forget about it. It's really hard to change your mind and your way of thinking and your old habits, and you become this crotchety old, individual who's stuck in their ways. It's just no fun to be around. And pretty soon, before you know it, people are trying to find somebody else to talk to, or trying to look out into their lives in other creative ways. And you don't want that. You don't want that for you, and you don't want it for your relationships. And so let's not. Let's do something else. You're not broken, but you are operating below your design. You are settling if you're not igniting this power within. Most healing focuses on what's wrong, right? And not focusing on what is already whole. And this is what I'm encouraging you to do. Flip it over. It's a quantum flip. Stop asking what's wrong and start celebrating what's right. just by flipping that, by switching over to looking at it from a different perspective, your whole life begins to change. Think about it this way. Energy doesn't respond very well to self-judgment. It responds to resonance. It responds to the coherence of your true nature, to that passion. Your energy system, your body, your beingness, your consciousness, your life, your relationships, all of it, they're going to respond to a deeper truth much more profoundly in a way that you will love if you allow yourself to drop inside and start feeling the feeling of love internally. Oh, how do I do that? How do I do that? I don't have access to love. I don't even know what it feels like. It's been so long. Or how do I get people to love me so that I can feel that love? That's the number one question that people are running on. And it's the wrong question to be running on. I'm talking about the love of life, and anyone can access that. I'm talking about look outside the window and see the spaciousness. Go outside and be in that spaciousness. Feel the sun on your body, or look at the sun dancing on the light of the surface of the water. Be engaged and curious about what happens when the wind blows and the leaves rustle, and the sounds that you hear on a summer night, or these kinds of things that sound so marginal, but they are tremendous because they represent a vibrational reality that will change your life experience 100%, because it gets you in touch with a greater truth. It ignites something in you. So when we keep chasing fixes, we miss the body's own wisdom. We miss our inherent design. We miss the bigness of our being. When we celebrate the beauty within and feel that beauty in the body, even when we notice the beauty on the outer self, in the outer world, all of it starts to cultivate and generate a vibrational frequency inside of your body that changes those little antennas on the surface of the cell, and it changes the epigenetic system that signals the brain and says, coast is clear. It's okay to come down off of fight or flight. It's okay to regulate the autonomic nervous system again in terms of healing and creativity and genius, in fact, instead of wasting all of our energy on figuring out what's wrong and who doesn't like this and what do I have to do to fix that and what's wrong with me or what's wrong with you. It's simply a way of living that we've outgrown, and it's time to make sure that you're on board with your own evolution. If there's frustration happening in your life, chances are you're holding on to an old pattern and an old way of being. It's always associated with attachment of some sort. All pain is associated with attachment to some thought, some idea, some belief, some past experience, glued to it, stuck to it, using it as a constant reference tool, and it has nothing to do with the truth of who you are. It was trying to poke you and prod you into waking instead of taking you out of the game. And I'm talking about the biggies. I'm talking about abuse and abandonment. I'm talking about the injuries, the accidents that have happened in your life, those moments that were shocking and impactful. They were calling you to awaken to something. They weren't designed to shut you down. The universe would never operate that way. The divine would never operate that way. The divine operates as the divine. And if you will focus in such a way, you will start to experience it. And if the mind says, well, what about this and what about that? Then you're arguing for your smallness. You're trying to get back in that smaller vehicle than the one that's truly designed to be carrying you through this life. Awakening happens by focusing on love. It happens by coming home to the self. It happens through pratyahara, withdrawing your senses deep within your body, of feeling and sensing and being present as you, instead of constantly referencing what everyone else is thinking and doing, and then you trying to fit into that. It will never happen, and it will never work for long. And so all we do is flip it around. It doesn't happen through effort. It happens through alignment. It happens through integration. And when that happens, we begin to really be operating in a codified world that is based in joy and vitality and wholeness. movement, breath, and sound are all things that help to cultivate this, and they raise your vibration on a cellular level. In fact, when I'm teaching people in my workshops, I'm always working with sound vibration, and we have so much joy that gets stirred. We laugh so much because that's life and that's truth. And what I love about it as a byproduct is it happens to be very healing as a contribution to our efforts of getting together for a healing retreat of one form or another. The vitality and the wholeness that is there is undeniable. And so when we work with movement, body awake yoga, we work with different breathing techniques and sound toning vibrations, all because it generates a cellular frequency second to none. And the reason for this is that's your true nature. And it overrides this trap door that was slammed shut when we got stuck in fight or flight. And it allows that trap door to open again and for energy to move again in your body. And so when that energy begins to shift, the whole field shifts, your whole being shifts, and the mind starts operating in creativity instead of just looping over and over like this broken record. And so in order to realize your own ways of doing this, I would encourage you to become active. Become more physically active than you currently are. Just do one thing. Just do one thing every day. Don't let a single day go by where you're not actively taking an intentional walk and I don't mean just running back and forth in your house, getting, picking up after the kids or doing all the things that you have to do or running all your errands. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about intentional movement where your consciousness is in the body and you're building the circuitry for this flow that we're referencing always. We are here to activate a system that builds this internal permission, if you will, for joy and healing to happen. And it can happen by your single choice every day, a simple choice. Do one thing today that you didn't do yesterday. Do one thing today that you didn't do yesterday to move your body and to breathe with joy. Even if you have to bring out old pictures and look at times in your life that were great and fun, and do that, whatever, do that so that you're animating these frequencies until you learn to memorize how they feel and you just do them on your own all the time. There's a spare moment often in your day. What do you fill it with? Do you go straight to worry? Do you go straight to filling in the blanks? Do you go straight to, something that's going to fatigue you? Or do you go straight to delight? I personally go to delight. I love to go to delight. I giggle like when I was a kid and in church and you start laughing with your friend and you're not supposed to laugh there and all that. I get in that state all the time because I'm curious and playful and I'm interested in the delight of life. And because I do that, I stay rubbery and flexible and pliable and malleable, just like children are. And I go to the yoga mat to enhance that and to integrate it in and infuse it in a beautiful and sustainable way, in an organized fashion that really leads not only to healing, it leads to an elevation in my consciousness, which allows me to tap in to higher and higher states of consciousness all the time and to bring those ideas into user-friendly terminology. I'm writing a book right now that I'm thrilled about because I'm taking us higher and insisting that we embrace these higher and higher frequencies as a regular stuff, as a regular way of being, so that we can be a divine presence in this body form. We can be the healing solution that we've been seeking. Why not? Why not get younger every day? Why not? You can, right? All you have to do is ignite that passion within you. Healing doesn't happen to you, nor does disease. It all comes through us, and how we allow the energy to move through us will determine which route we're going to take, right? So this brings me to, I'm just thinking about, I'm teaching a course that's called Ignite, and it's for this very reason. And inside of Ignite, I'm just thinking about it. I do all these same things. I bring people into body movement with conscious, intentional anchoring our own consciousness in the body, waking up these passionate places within our core so that they can be enlivened. We work with big gong sounds that move your whole body, and we work with toning and chanting, and we work with crystal bowls that bring you into these higher, more delicate presence spaces that allow us to just soften and float into the spaciousness of our true consciousness. And in those places, we can remember or put pieces together for the first time that allow us to think in terms of possibility and beauty instead of just surviving all the time. And so maybe you can check out Ignite. I'll make sure in the show notes that we have a way for you to register for that and join us, because I know that that is a way for you to embody everything that we're talking about right here. Your vital energy is everything. Without it, we've got nothing. We start degrading, and we start falling apart and dissolving everything that we've worked for when that vital energy is missing, when it's disconnected. And so when we reignite it and it returns, you stop managing your symptoms, and you stop imagining worst case scenarios, and you stop worrying about your future, and you start creating the future that you choose no matter what's going on in the crazy world around you. I want you to just think about this for a moment. What if planet Earth was a place for you to come to awaken? And what if in that you initially start to awaken by combating against the negative experiences that are happening in your life, and not letting anything get you down, and rising above and transcending, and finding solutions based upon the problems that you are facing, and you felt some success. And what if then you lived that way for a while and it started to exhaust you, because it does? And what if then you were to awaken yet again to another reality, right while you're here in this same body, on this same earth, living this same life, but you awaken yet again to another way of seeing it all? And what if it was to transcend the idea that you have to fight for it, that you have to make it hard in order to feel a victory, that you have to struggle and strive in order to ever thrive and succeed? What if you transcended that whole reality altogether? Yeah, I assure you, it's right there for the having if you would choose it. It doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to work your way or earn your way in. It isn't that. That is one level of consciousness, but there's another level of consciousness. And when I talk about the art of awakening, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about awakening to another level of consciousness where you recognize you don't have to suffer in order to succeed. You don't. What if you could embody, meaning animate, activate different energies inside of your own system that would activate different parts of your brain to come online, to focus up, and to start becoming active? What if they would ignite in a way that would allow you in your executive centers to have more power than your fight or flight primitive brain currently has? The reason we struggle to regulate our autonomic nervous system is because we're identifying in a world of right and wrong, good and bad, and having to fight our way through it. And if we identified in a different world, one that was more like heaven, earth, let's say, one that was already okay, and that we acted and interacted and exchanged as if it was true, if we created a collective reality that was based on that, what do you think would happen? I know what would happen. I watch it happen all the time. I've been watching it happen for decades with people that I'm teaching and working with. We're igniting something different inside, and it's allowing us to just elevate again and see it from the bird's eye view that recognizes, the argument is a choice. The fight, the battle, the war, it's a choice. They're all choices. And I could choose not to do that. And I could just go on living in a way. And it's not sticking your head in the sand. It isn't that at all. What if the other is actually keeping your head in the sand? What if it's the reverse of what we thought? So I'm hoping I stir you up a little bit and ignite some stuff in you today with the conversation, because I know what will happen if you even consider walking up another flight of steps and and seeing from a bird's eye view. In every ancient culture, there's a big bird inside of their spiritual traditions. And the big bird is always representing the rising up of consciousness, the elevation, the spiritual eye view, if you will. And I don't mean to get religious on you, but I do very much mean to get spiritual with you, because invisible energy is spirit. And the invisible energy field is the quantum field that science is currently studying. And they're the same thing, the exact same thing. And so whatever we need to call it in order to explore it, that's what I'm encouraging. Whatever we need to call it that, please. But investigate, lean in, and start living in accordance with the laws that both quantum science and ancient spiritual traditions would insist that you do. Because when you do that, you start to find a truer version of yourself than the one who's caught up in this externalized, disempowered space that we've been living in. Life becomes an experience of alignment, integration, revealing, instead of performing and earning and fighting for what you need. Well, some say it would be being real. Some would say it's being primitive. This fight for what you want. The only way we're supposed to use our fighting efforts is to insist upon not going into the story, to fight for our individual expression of our own divinity. That's where we're supposed to put our efforts and our energy, to not let the mind take over and start writing stories that scare us and intimidate us anymore, but to allow that same mind to be grounded, because when it is, it becomes attracted to something entirely different. It fills in the blanks entirely differently until it recognizes it doesn't even need to fill them in at all, that the mystery is actually a beautiful space, and we can live in love and be better for one another by igniting that part of us. Our purpose becomes obvious. We're no longer hiding from it. We're no longer fighting for it. We're standing in it. There's a difference. There's a difference. We're not trying to earn our way in. We're just on the inside. We're already there. We're already through the gates. All right? The reason that we don't experience our lives that way is that we're always trying to get there. And so when you're trying to get there, you've developed the circuitry for trying to get there. And you haven't developed the circuitry for being there. So you have to use your imagination. You have to ignite that passion that allows you to be curious and wondrous. And we have to do that in tangible, reproducible, and sustainable patterns that build circuitry that get memorized in your cellular memory and in your subconscious memory and in your conscious memory, because it resonates with your own superconsciousness. And that's what it's all about. So I'm hoping that you will join me again and again and again at the Art of Awakening. I absolutely love sparking this conversation with you and igniting a deeper passion within. In fact, if you're interested in joining me for Ignite, it's a quantum leap in healing and awakening, a live in-person course that I teach. I'll make sure that there are notes in the show notes here for you to allow you to register for that. It brings everything that we've been talking about and exploring in this episode to life in your body, that you can then take it back home and have had an immersive experience, a cellular experience of your own passionate self coming to life. Powerful practices and deep insights and real-time transformation, of course. That's what we're all about. So we'd love to have you there. I would love to have you there. I'd love to see you and connect with you. I love, love, love connecting with our community in these ways. And so those details will be available for you. I want to thank you again for spending time with me in the Art of Awakening today. This podcast means a lot to me, and it has meant a lot to so many who are writing in and sharing with us what's happening with them for just being a part of this. So we're always blending science and spirituality to empower you to create a life that you truly, truly love. And I do want to ask you to like and subscribe and share this podcast. If you'll subscribe to this, then we're always letting you know when new or special podcast episodes are coming out so that you don't miss a thing. All right. So until next time, I'm Dr. Sue Morter. Blessings to you all. Much, much love. Bye-bye for now.